Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We come to you from Hoboken this week. In a moment, we will go in to interview the new mayor. Also, his name is Brian Boyle, and he's a professional hockey player for the New Jersey Devils, but he has a much tougher fight after being diagnosed with leukemia. Do you have ringing in your ear? Now there's a new treatment you're going to want to hear about, and a news story about an increase in New Jersey children dying in their sleep may be misleading. But right now we're going to go back inside City Hall to interview the newly elected mayor of Hoboken, the first Sikh to be elected mayor in the state of New Jersey. Now, our interview with Ravi Bhalla. Every time I read an article about you, and there's been many, including in the New York Times, it says the first Sikh mayor of Hoboken, the first Sikh mayor in New Jersey, as if that's in your title.
Sure.
What is the significance of that?
Well, you know, when I ran for mayor of Hoboken, I didn't run as the Sikh mayor. I just ran as a mayoral candidate that happened to be a Sikh. So the things that I care about most are what Hoboken cares about: holding the line on taxes, creating more open space, addressing our infrastructure, quality of life issues. Those take precedence over everything else. That's happening in a larger context where we're seeing a lot of minorities, Sikhs being among them, that are being elevated to positions of political power, which is really a reflection of the diversity of our country and the fact that I think the electorate wants to see a more diverse government representing them.
But you still understand the importance of it, right? I mean, anybody that is a groundbreaker, anybody who's a first,
sure,
is looked at as someone to be admired, especially by the community. So it's not that you're running away from that title, you do embrace it.
Absolutely, it's a dual responsibility. I was elected by the citizens of Hoboken to be the best possible mayor for the people of Hoboken. So I'm squarely focused on that. Yeah, I'm very keen of the larger context in which we have a federal administration that is putting a lot of vulnerable communities under assault, whether they be the LGBTQ community, immigrant communities, Asian American communities, the Muslim Americans, and it's incumbent more and more so upon mayors of cities to be the last line of defense to protect our rights as Americans. So, you know, Hoboken first. Hoboken is the absolute priority, but we live in the United States of America. We have rights under the Constitution, and as mayor, I'm not afraid to stand up, whether it be the federal government, the president, to protect our rights as Americans here in Hoboken.
One last question about the Sikh population, because I think that there is some ignorance about Sikhs in this country. In 2012 in Wisconsin, there was a horrible attack by a white supremacist on a Sikh temple, and there has been incidents since then, especially after 9/11, because there's this feeling that because you dress the way you do, you must be a terrorist. And you felt that a little bit during the campaign when there was a flyer sent out saying, "Don't elect a terrorist." What do people need to understand about Sikhs that some people don't understand?
I think people need to understand that the principles of the Sikh religion are virtually identical to the values upon which our country was founded. We are radical egalitarians. We believe in equality of all people, whether they're men or women, no matter what their faith, no matter what their identity in terms of race. These beliefs of equality were being espoused by the founders of Sikhism long before the Declaration of Independence, long before the Civil Rights Movement, long before the Voting Rights Movement. So there's a symbiotic relationship between Sikhism and being an American. They're wholly consistent with each other. The Sikh turban represents those values that I share as a Sikh and as an American. It has nothing to do with terrorism. In fact, the Sikh turban represents the exact opposite of that. So I think the best antidote to ignorance is really education.
Let's talk politics now, and we'll get to the city council. You vetoed what would have been an ordinance to require not an instant runoff, but a runoff election in December. If there was not a majority, if one candidate for mayor didn't get a majority, you didn't win by a majority, you won by a plurality. You vetoed that. Why?
The reason why I exercise a veto is several reasons. One, this issue was squarely placed before the voters in 2012. We had a referendum, a ballot referendum, where this exact question was asked, and by an overwhelming majority, the residents of Hoboken wanted to abandon the runoff system, go to a plurality system. One election coincides with the federal and state elections. Whoever has the most votes wins. This issue has already been decided and spoken to by the voters.
And it's important to point out that the person that sponsored this lost to you for mayor.
Yes, the proponents of this new bringing back the runoff are all individuals who were not successful in this last election. I don't know if that is what's motivating the effort, but the other concern I have is that in Hoboken and in Hudson County, when you have this runoff system where there's, in this case, a December runoff, right between Hanukkah and Christmas, you have low turnout. Turnout becomes depressed. Anytime you have depressed turnout, you have more opportunity for improper conduct.
When you say improper conduct, you were a little bit stronger in that in the statement when you were talking about vote buying. And
Correct.
There is vote buying. You actually said at one point, we all know that there's vote buying in Hoboken. Do you have evidence of that?
I personally have signed affidavits to the Attorney General's office with actual evidence of people being paid to submit a vote by mail ballot and then being designated as campaign workers when in fact they were not serving that purpose. That's a form of vote buying that I experienced myself, this being in the 4th Ward in 2011. So we have presented evidence of vote buying to the authorities in past years.
Are they going to investigate it? You wanted an investigation, I would imagine.
I certainly hope they do. Anything illegal or corrupt that degrades democracy and the integrity of our voting or electoral system in Hoboken or New Jersey should be investigated. We've pled with authorities to look into this. It really makes elections not as fair. It creates a less perfect democracy here in Hoboken.
But you're not against, in theory, of a mayor getting a majority to win?
No, I believe that is a worthwhile policy objective. I think that the runoff system where you have a depressed turnout right before Christmas is not a good policy solution. A better policy solution, which many states have, which is very commonplace, is instant runoffs, where somebody can rank their preference, which will almost automatically get somebody to 50+1.
Well, I want to talk about, we're going to come back for another segment because you've agreed to that, and thank you so much. I do want to talk about infrastructure because you've called yourself the infrastructure mayor. I want to talk about your waterfront and a little bit about Donald Trump when Jersey Matters continues right after this.